I was born in New Jersey, North Jersey, Newark, and I spent my whole life in like the central part of Jersey. It's like in the cut, so it's like right outside of Staten Island. I live right by the water, right by the Atlantic, and I would say that's probably home for me. Okay, no doubt. My clearest, most vivid like memory as a kid was me being in the car with my parents, and this is before I had younger brothers. I got two younger siblings, and we were in Times Square, and I just remember all the lights, and it was like, I think the Knicks were playing the Bulls or some random game. I don't remember. I just remember that the Bulls was like, they were just being like branded like all on some of these screens, and it was just the most beautiful thing I had ever seen at that point. Definitely my most vivid like childhood memory. I was considered a weird person who grew up in a weird section of a weird state. So the hardest part about living in Jersey is that there's no centralized city. We don't have a Los Angeles or like a Philly, Pittsburgh. Like we have Newark and we have Trenton and we have like Jersey City and AC, but there's no like, we're not having one centralized culture based around our city. So, and then on top of that, I just grew up in a very like diversified, like all over the place sort of state when it comes to like race, for example, because my whole family is from Ghana, West Africa, so I'm first generation, and all my friends were the same. They were all first generation. I grew up seeing like a lot of different sort of people in terms of like culture, and it just was very like just different for sure, because it wasn't like I was seeing a lot of the same things, but maybe like a lot of 3 or 4 conflicting sort of beliefs, ideals, cultures, diets, shit like that. And then even amongst that, me myself, like I was just a big nerd, so like I'm still even now into like anime, the Power Rangers, fantasy games, like shit like that. And the way that I grew up, for all of that happening at once, it was just like, I was just like all over the place. I didn't really think so, but just being around like, you know, hearing one thing from one person and another thing from another person, it kind of was just like, not necessarily messy, but like I was always asking questions. That's like the basis of how I kind of grew up. I grew up just asking a lot of questions and not really getting a lot of answers at the same time. But on the surface level, like just as things were, very like quiet life. I didn't really do a lot. I only spent some time really being outside, a lot more time being inside. I spent a lot of my life watching TV before I really like stepped out of my home. Like middle, low income. So like we were doing what we could. We weren't really like, I can't say we were dusty or like, we were just going through like the worst of the worst. So that was cool. But definitely just a lot more of stuff mentally I kind of had to run through. I was just under the trope of just being like I spent most of your life growing up is school and it's home. So I go home and it's like I'm this young African kid. All we're pretty much talking about is like my education and my future in regards to like my money and my religion. So I just grew up like super strong Christian household, and hearing like all these ideals and beliefs, and like not really having room for, like I said, questions being answered, because you know it's just what it is. And then I go to school and it's like I'm within the trope of like the black kid who acts white sort of situation. So I was just around a lot of people, but I still wasn't feeling like a certain level of acceptance for myself, and that reflects. So it's all like, just I always felt like I stuck out in that sort of way, and I did for sure. But like I didn't think it was like more negative, or I didn't think it was more positive. Like growing up, free lunch and this would almost kill them. Oh my god, that was just that was definitely like that was like that was me referring to like early middle school, and that's like the first time where like we're supposed to really start thinking for ourselves, like doing a little bit more than probably what we were, at least I'll speak for myself, doing a lot more of like free thinking. And I at that point like I was like I hate my life. So like my whole basis of my life was literally like free lunch and good grades, like free lunch, like the lunch program, and like being really good at school. I was always like really good at school. So like, but that's all the value I had for myself, because that's all the value that was kind of like given to me, like on the bright side on whatever shit I was on. Like at least I was like smart. So but that's all I had. And then you kind of find out that doesn't really mean anything. And then free lunch was just like in that same sort of basis. Like I just go to school, I act stupid, like get my free lunch or my reduced lunch, go to class, be good at class, come home, be on some bullshit, get yelled at. So I was just like that. I was ready to go, type shit. Just really like suicide, ready to go. But yeah, I think
So
that was it.
basically like you're good at school like by default basically.
Yeah, I was kind of like built for it. Like like literally like I'm 8 years old, and like my family's like finna be a doctor or a scientist or the president, like just some wild shit. And it's like all that's like just stemming from like the value of just like all I had for myself as far as I thought was like me being smart, and me potentially knowing how to make a lot of money. So, but when you're like 12, like I'm not doing it more so because I want to out of my own free mind more than I just think it's right. But at the same time, like deep inside, like as a human being, you know, like this doesn't really matter. This is all part of something that's like something that's even smaller than us, and we're fucking tiny. So like me getting good grades and still being upset about my life, like just didn't make sense to me. I can do what I want. I could be happy doing something I want, and I could make money. Which is like the basis of what we currently have going on right now. So when I was 18, like I was like, wow, I could do whatever I want. I could be happy. So me even going to college, like I was kind of like, I know I'm currently here for something that doesn't have to do with me, but I also had the freedom to pick where I was. I didn't let anybody tell me where to go or what to do. And I was happy then, and I only dropped out because I figured what I got going on right now is even bigger than what people are still trying to have me do. Man, I have like 2 first names. my full name is like 6 names. The food is really good, but I'm also I was just really picky, and eating out like on some American fast food shit is like a special occasion. So it's like fuck, like yeah, we're about to eat fufu again, but man, next week I'm gonna ask about McDonald's and it's gonna be like a celebration. Like it was really like that. Just a lot of stuff where I always was just like, I always thought it was pretty cool, the culture in itself. Like just having more behind myself as a person. Just being like, yeah, like also like my family's from Ghana, and like we speak a different language, and the food and the clothes, and I think that was also like a cool part about growing up, just having another piece of myself that was like real individualistic, so that I could kind of bring that to the table when I'm around other people. Just like literally being like, at some point someone asked me, like if I get to that point where someone's asking me like my nationality or whatever, like I'm just like rubbing my hands like I'm about to talk to you. So that's really like a really cool part of it. And then in the culture itself, like I always like loved a lot of the music we had. It kind of got old on some just like growing up with it bullshit, but I really got to appreciate it like now more than ever. And I think that was probably with everything. I always had an appreciation for the music and the clothing, and some of the ideals were just like pretty like particular and fun. Like just some random shit like, oh, like you're gonna give that to me with your left hand? Like just some random shit where it's like giving my grandma food with my left hand was like oh, it just meant something completely different than what it should be, which is like nothing. But growing up, like, I always thought that shit was just funny. Stuff like that. I don't really call, at some point, like, I didn't really call people Mr. and Mrs. growing up. I called them, like, auntie and uncle. Like, shit like that. And having a lot of family members. Like, a whole lot. And they all live in the same town. I was supposed to go this year. I was supposed to go next month. And that was, like, my plan in January. So, no.
That's fun.
Yeah. I was dead ready. It was hectic. Because it was a build-up. But once it really got to a certain level, it got hectic. So, like, it started from, like, yeah, I'm going to go to college. All right, then I'm going to go to college. I'm going to still think about doing what I want to do. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Then it was just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And maybe between those last two parts of just, like, me deciding to go to college for, like, graphic design, too. I went for graphic design. And that was already kind of, like, funny with my mom, like, on some, like, salary shit. She was like, oh, well, the numbers this year. And I was like, Mom, I'll be fine. But that leading into just leaving and then becoming a rapper, we were doing, like, a lot of, like, headbutting. Like, a whole lot of just, like, tension and arguing and stuff. And at one point, like, we had to, like, literally, like, have a sit-down dinner, like, what's up? And, like, it was just some, like, I gotta do it. And, you know, my mom was hot. She was mad. So that was always, like, a lot at first. Definitely a lot of just, like, high tension. I spent, like, the last 3 years of my high school was at a boarding school in central Pennsylvania. And I was studying, like, graphic design. They had, like, a little career tech program to kind of, like, let you know some skills before you head out into the world. And my graphic design teacher, there was two of them. There was Mrs. Harmon and Mr. D'Acosta. We called him D. And D was literally, like, the first person who, like, clear-cut said, like, you can do whatever you want. You just have to like it and then get good at it and then figure out how to make money off it. And I was like, because I was still kind of like, I had started rapping like in 7th grade and I was kind of like, I was a little consistent, but like I was never really like on it heavy. And then once I heard that, which was also like intersecting with me starting to rap again when I got into this boarding school, I was like, I could fucking do that. I could do that. All right, so I'm gonna do that, and that was literally it. I had like, from that point on, like I had like bought a microphone and started just figuring it out. I've always been like an artist.
Yeah.
So when I was 4, I was already like drawing and drawing like literally just since I was watching a lot of anime, like I always found like that importance of just like color and like just dynamics, just shit that just didn't look like shit that almost looked real. So I was always drawing and doing art, like visual art, through our art class, like it was my favorite. I didn't write my first piece of music until I was like 9. So, I mean, yeah, technically I was an artist first. I was planning to be a cartoonist. So I was really like trying to like scribble for a long time. 7th grade was probably like the craziest. For me personally, that was like my first year of definitely experiencing big transitions. And one of those big transitions was rapping. And that's what I meant. I was like, that's the point at which. Yeah, so that was like 2013. Yeah, so I was like 12 when I started like hip hopping for real. I think I learned to be a little bit more appreciative. I was never really spoiled. I was never spoiled. But I just didn't get things. So learning to just like see a scenario and understand it for what it is rather than what I could think it is. Like, you know, and that mostly, let's say, that was just from coming from an income-based thing. Like, me assuming that I can't like do certain things because that like we might not have had the money for it, and then also being confused because I didn't understand that $200 is a lot of money, but when $200 is being spent on groceries for this black woman and her 3 kids, then I'm on some nonsense and just acting stupid and just like doing random shit I'm not supposed to be doing. I like stealing and shit, but just like destructively, just like taking things from people, taking things from my mother, just not understanding a situation as it is, like at a face level, to really just be appreciative of it, and and to understand, just generally just being grateful for certain things that I just couldn't have seen even though it was in my face. Yeah. And it was a little difficult for her to, I think, put it out there, because I'm being the first generation American, and the stories is like, where we have to walk miles, like the walking miles for water in Ghana, or like the just like not having enough clothes for this and that. You got to wash this tonight because you might wear it tomorrow, shit like that. That was hard for me to understand because I don't have to deal with those things. So I'm like, what are you talking about? Why would I have to? Why, like, that sounds so much worse than what we're in, and me just not understanding that. But I think that was just her way of just trying to tell us to, like, have some appreciation. I run through them. I used to I spent a lot of time just like trying to sit down with myself. Now, like, there's a lot of things that, like, not that I necessarily avoided, like problems with myself and problems I had with other people. There's understanding like the depth of a situation, because I'm not really thinking even now, like there's certain things that like aren't that deep, but because the way that we all kind of grew up, like I think that we were made to be like deep thinkers, and for better or for worse, like we're here now. So I spent a lot of time like overthinking, and that's when like situations aren't really happening, or like we're not talking to people about like things that we might think they're thinking. So I think what happened was I just learned to really put what I'm saying out there. I'm learning now to put what I'm saying out there, so I could get, if I put out whatever I'm putting out to the world, and the world gives me something back, any sort of scenario, reaction, case, emotion from some person, I can now sit down and run through it. And now that's what I do. I just like, I try not to escape it. I try to just think. I try not to think too much, because I know when it can get out of hand. I know I'm a human being. We doubt, and we just have negative thoughts that are built into us right now. But I just sit, and I just know whatever happened, and I know how I'm supposed to feel when it's addressed, and how I'm not supposed to feel, and like that's what I do. I run through it. I wanted to go to LA since I was in high school, and I actually like applied for UCLA when I applied for UCLA, and I was planning to apply for UCLA in high school, but my boarding school, like on some career, like college counselor shit, they're like, I don't know about your tuition and blah, blah, blah. They just want to, they give you a scholarship, which is a blessing, but they try to make sure you're gonna stay within that budget. So they're talking about UCLA and like on some whatever shit. I'm like, all right, fuck that. I'll just go on my own whenever I get my money. So I spent college thinking about it, and I got convinced by the simple question of just like, why not just go now? Literally, just that simple question. And I was like, why not just go now? So after I dropped out, I got myself one of those shitty paying Amazon warehouse jobs, and I saved some money up. I was looking for an apartment out here. Got scammed and lost like half a stack, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna just go to school out here. And I had a little bit of like scholarship type money to do it, so I did like a little 6-month program and learned sound engineering out here in like Hollywood. So that's how I got out here.
How do you feel about your decision now?
It was probably like the best thing I ever did. That was the first time I called all the shots. Like from leaving up until getting here, I said, all right, I'm finna go. I'm finna figure something out. I'm gonna get some money up. I'm gonna go there. I went there. I went here. I flew out here for like a week just to see it. And I did that. And I'm talking to my mom like, hey, I'm getting my money. I'm taking this trip to LA. And meanwhile, she kind of already knows I'm trying to go there. And she's kind of asking me to go to school. And I'm like, well, I'll figure that out when I get there type shit. And I go there and I figure it out. And I'm 19 and I'm still not really knowing what I'm doing, which is a testament to why I got scammed. Because I was just like, still just being reckless at my own expense. And that still set up the opportunity for me to go to school, which is the best decision I ever made. Because on top of that, I also met Peyton and our friend Rory. He's up in like North Cal right now. But, two people who I was able to look at besides Frank and Willis, to where I could be like, I know some really, really like greatest rappers of all time, including me. Man, get a fucking roommate, because you're going to live out here and you're going to pay rent, and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Get a fucking job. No. Make money how you think is best, at your expense still, not at the expense or exploitation of other people. Figure out people who, when you're living here, the best thing you need to do, you got to figure out who you're going to be friends with if none of you guys are doing your profession. Because everyone's out here for business. What I was doing here was a mission. But at the end of the day, if any one of the people who I hung out with stopped doing what they were doing, we'd still be friends. If I stopped making music, I'd be friends with the people who I'm with now. And I think that's more important. I think we fuck up a lot because we're in like this entertainment capital, this business capital. So everybody's like on this like career mindset, and that fucks everything up because you don't get to know people personally. You don't know who's actually cool, who's fucking shit up, who needs to probably be just needs fucking mental help. Like, it's all just like, you can't see a lot of true color and light because that everyone here is just trying to get a paycheck. All that social climbing, you pull up here and you don't have friends that are actually your friends, and you're doing all this social climbing, it's just gonna fuck you up. It's gonna fuck you up. It's gonna fuck whoever is like in front of you up. You might as well go home then, if you don't have like people you kind of at least care about. And that's not gonna happen unless you can hang out with those people before you could be making money with them. That's what I think, at least. I heard the universe is expanding. So I think we use time to kind of measure the expansion of the universe. And it's not like I don't think time is a positive or negative thing, but it's definitely something that we as human beings built. I don't think plants or animals have a regard for time. If our cat could sleep for more than half the day, I don't think they need time. But it's also because that we're human beings, and we're just like, we have this like balance of like power and responsibility. If there's things we got to do, we're trying to do it at a certain time because we have a lifestyle that we kind of built for ourselves. So that's what it means. It's literally constructed. We made it. We made the idea of time. I'm on a work mindset, for better and worse. And I think it just comes from where I'm from. That like New Jersey, New York, like somewhere to be, someone to see, something to do mind state, on some like super worker, like definitely like low-key capitalist bullshit, like just always trying to get something, just always trying to make something happen. But I don't think work in itself is wrong, but just the pace at which I can work myself sometimes. Because I'll be burning myself out. I'll destroy myself to get everything done. And, like, that's not healthy. And, like, I'm lucky I got people around me to kind of, like, slow me down. Cam Obi. Knowledge.
Yeah, he's fire. I fuck with knowledge a lot.
Knowledge is dope. Knowledge is so dope. there is this composer, and he wrote the score for my favorite Pokemon game, Go Ichinose. So I'd probably like be in the studio with him. That would be those. K Tronado would be pretty cool. I think those four specifically, off the top of my head. No Name, Telephone. The Sun's Tirade, Isaiah Rashad. The Vince Guaraldi Trio, Charlie Brown Christmas soundtrack. The Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Super Music soundtrack. Amy Winehouse Frank. I think I'm a superhero.
Okay.
So I think I'm still pretty like anti-hero-esque right now. I know that I'm just like somebody who comes from just like a mind state of just like recklessness and like yeah, that's a good word for it. But like me just always being into the things I have been, there's always been like a protagonist of some sort. Someone's trying to do, for whatever reason, save themselves, and that aligns with saving the world. I want to be somebody who can do that. And on a more concrete level, like, you know, I want to do good for like teaching children about just like how we get all kind of just be the same. Like, we're all the same thing. We're all like, if we're all made of fucking atoms and we're all the same thing and we're all the same people and we're all part of one big fucking game, I want to teach that. I want to, you know, be somebody who could teach that to people, somebody that people can learn from. You know, I take the idea of being a hero not really like a flex more than it is a responsibility. I know, and sometimes I forget, and I get reminded that like I'm somebody who has a voice, and not even on some just like rapper shit, but just on some like people shit. I'm somebody who talks to a lot of people, and a lot of people are willing to hear what I might have to say for whatever reason. So I just want to use what I have to kind of push for this like back to nature, just sort of like we're just all on the same type of time. And that's like, you know, whatever pace that may be, I'm pushing to get there. And whether that means I'm going to be the next Blues Clues nigga after hip hop, whether that means I'm going to, you know, have some sort of like psychological training or whatever it means for me, like I want to figure out my personal way to save the world. And I'm going to start with hip hop, because that's just something I'm really good at and I have fun doing, and I could get to see and talk to a lot of people through that means. And I'm still learning, because I'm not somebody I'm like I said, I call myself an anti-hero. I'm still working on this shit because I got a lot of problems I'm dealing with for myself. I'm at the end of the day, like I'm Brandon Adu Mensa. That's what they put on my birth certificate. But I'm also Brandon Masenko. I'm that right now. You know, I exist as. I don't really think they switch. I think all those things exist as one thing. I'm Kwame Adu. That's my family, like my name, my family, like my tree name, my Ghanaian name. So like, it's just more about me, myself, more than my name, which is why, like, you know, I have all these names and all these ideas for like what I would title myself. Bilo, that's a name that I've been given, but like at the end of the day, like they're all just multiple names I have that are still just me. I think Cowboy Bebop is a really good going into. I think that kind of paints a picture of like what you're going to be in for. And then everything else, it can kind of depend. Like I know, like I've had friends who are more just into just like slice of life stuff that's more normal, and I'll recommend like Fooly Cooly. I've had friends who, like me, are into just the outlandish, fantasized bullshit, and I'll be like, watch One Piece. I'll know people who want to see some shit get fucked up, or they want to get fucked up, and I'll say watch Evangelion. Oh, Hunter x Hunter. That's also Cowboy Bebop and Hunter x Hunter. I think are two specific ones I would probably tell people to watch first. And Samurai Champloo. Okay, because I'm like, what have I recommended to people already, and like kind of like just shown them because they asked me. I don't really saying put them on or whatever. I think that's a pride thing, whatever. But like, yeah, just being like those three specifically can kind of balance out everything you might be looking for, and give you like a better picture of what it might be.
Gotcha.
So those three: Bebop, Champloo, Hunter x Hunter, the 2011 version, because there's a 90s version and it's cool, but the 2011 version they really did that. I met Frank when I switched high schools, and we both were just like on the same type of time on some Tenacious D shit. We were just like into the same anime, the same exact like rappers who like a lot of people we just thought weren't listening to at that time. And just like
Just an example here,
like he was listening to Mick Jenkins,
but
and like he kind of showed me Mick Jenkins, and like I was really into the production, and just like this rapper who was working with K Tronada, and K Tronada was popping out too, and he was really good at rapping. He was the funniest nigga. He was like at the present moment in time, he was probably the best rapper I ever met, the funniest nigga I ever met, and just like real like positive like clown type of dude. So I was like, whoa. So like we've always just been kind of like this, just real close. And he admired me and my rapping, and thought that I was funny and stuff. He's seen a lot of stuff I personally didn't see for myself at first, and we kind of just kept. We were making music more so our senior year of high school, because we ended up living together in this like apartment style boarding school. Like I said, boarding school. We had like this weird apartment style situation. We were living together, and we were making music together, and driving indoors was just the result of just us making music all the time together. You know, like that's the name of the group, but really it's more of just like we're just like a super duo type of thing. So we even like put out Driving Indoors Volume 1 in high school, and kind of like made that sort of thing to be its own entity. Because sometimes like it'll be Brandon featuring Frank, Frank featuring Brandon, but Driving Indoors is kind of like a whole different thing, you know. And we took that to college, because we went to college together, and we brought that same sort of energy. We weren't doing all Driving Indoors then. We were just figuring stuff out still, like how we wanted shit to sound, how we were going to be and whatnot. But we've always just kind of lived our lives right next to each other's for the past like 7 years. And it's just the result of just us kind of just existing in tandem and making music in tandem for that long. Has instability ever affected my creativity? No. Cause no. Because it's not really, because creativity is always like, it's never really a matter of like concrete timing, right? If we're all doing everything at like our own pace, then like, you know, in the middle of like an unstable period, would it be instability, unstable? It would be in the middle of a period of time where shit isn't constant. At one point you could be creative, at one point you cannot. I made a whole project like in the first half of this whole thing, and like I'm gonna get into that when that's ready to be talked about, but like after I finished that, like I didn't write nothing for what was like a month or two type shit, just because like it was a pace. I'm speeding up, I'm slowing down. We're speeding up, we're slowing down. So it never really matters, I think, for me, because I know that there's a lot of people where the energy of what's going on around in the world can affect them, and like me, not to say that I do or don't, but like it's never really like crippled me. I don't think I've been like severely hurt creativity wise because of all this. I was just finna go by my name, I was finna go by Brandon Mensa, but I knew that when I was like 16, I was like Brandon Mensa, and I was like Vic Mensa. So that's where I was at, and I was like, and I was running through so many names and trying so many things, and Brandon Masenko was already there at some point. I knew on some hip hop shit, I was like, if the bars are coming from my head, and Gohan's moves like this, so I'm like, it's going here, and then it's a blast, like that's how I rap, and Masenko, Mensa, like it's similar, and like it just sounded good, so. And so that's where it started, but the important part about it that kind of stuck around is that I was trying to change my name so many times. I've tried changing my name so many times. I have so many different like rap names from the span of like 7 years. But Brandon Masenko always came back around. So it literally just stayed with me while I was just figuring things out, and I was like, it's finna be you and me, buddy. We finna be Gohan right now. Better than Gohan. Learning to understand that we're not gonna know how long this is finna be. So just not being like, I think that maybe going into it, like I spent a lot of time with the idea of like preparation rather than initiative or action. So it's like, okay, we're in the middle of a pandemic. The veil, like the voice of racial uprising hasn't been louder. The voice of equality hasn't been louder. We have so much access to know what's going on, instead of even down to like a few days ago, just realizing like I know I could do this shit now. I'm gonna do what I can now, and I'm gonna, in whatever aspect, and just not make it more of a prepping more than just doing it now. Because on top of the fact that I could be gone tomorrow, but the fact that we don't know when we're all going to be healthy physically, we don't know when we're all not going to have to deal with like the pandemic, we don't know when there will be a true sense of like equality. And I'm not saying that like it couldn't, like I'm not saying it like it couldn't be tomorrow as well, but we don't know shit. So if I don't know shit and you don't know shit and we're all making this up because we don't know what we're doing, I'm just gonna do whatever I probably should like right now. So that's the biggest thing. I've seen a lot of change in myself, and I think that it's affected everything else, because now the way that I view things and view people who I see like in my face, it just, that reflects. It's all reflective. So I think yes, but I think that it just stems from the change in myself. I think that we're more learning to be mindful of certain things as people, learning to see who really cares, who really doesn't, who's trying. And this includes myself, to, realize like I'm somebody who, it's not like I'm like so far against any idea of true equality, but like I'm not doing enough, and that's, and learning that and just accepting that to move forward, like stuff like that, and like also realizing like me being myself, there's still a range of open-mindedness and narrow-mindedness to the people around me. Whereas like I learned that I'm not finna assume anything, and I can't assume that they're assuming things too. So that changed everything too. Literally just a change of perception. Everything changed. But it changed, everything changed because it changed within me. Finding inspiration inside or outside. Definitely coexistent. Because it's like, I guess, you know what that means then? External. Because the external is the first step. If I can't see, if I can't hear, if I can't think with whatever's in front of me, to think those things, I can't internalize it and then bring it back out. So I think that influence or inspiration is always going to be external. Because if we don't know what we're doing and we're making this shit up, then we can't figure out what's inside of us necessarily at first. At least for making art. Because the whole point of it is to imitate life, right? The whole point is that it's supposed to be close to what it might actually be, as far as it seems. So, yeah, it's definitely taking something from the outside and then taking it in and painting your own picture and then throwing it out there. I think that a lot of people out there think that they're grown or mature. And this isn't like on some like shit talking sort of thing, but more so just like it comes back to just not understanding kind of what we're doing. We can kind of think that trauma is like, oh, I'm grown because I've been through a lot. But that's not going to stop you from being your age. So like I've been in scenarios where it's like people might have problems, they might have issues that they're not dealing with because they think that they're already past their prime because that they've ran through some sort of issue that was traumatic when they were younger. And then that's not, you know, but like it's not necessarily making an excuse because it's like I said, like we don't really know what we're doing, but it's just more so just not understanding that sort of equivalency. We've been taught that because that you're going through these things, you're already washed, you're tired, you're good, you're an old soul, like, but like that doesn't really exist because we still ask ourselves questions every day. If niggas can still be 65 and ask questions and have problems, then, and they might have gone through the same sort of like bullshit that somebody who's 19, 16, 8 have gone through, then it's like there's no real scale to being what maturity might be, and that's not equivalent to what you've experienced.
Gotcha.
It just comes down to the awareness. So it's like, yeah, it's like you're not grown because you've seen this or you've felt that. You're grown because, or you're mature because you understand. You're more mature for understanding that those are not problems, or those are problems that you have to deal with. Those aren't just exactly like you said, they're not battle scars.
Yeah.
We can't run through it. It feels like it. Like I definitely like look at like what I've gone through is like all my negative experiences is like a you know, a scar on my skin.
Yeah.
But like we know where the scar comes from. A scar comes from a cut, and a cut comes from some damage. In terms of the music, yeah, just the instrumental itself, the sound of whatever I'm going for, because if it was like, you know, made for me with my vision, that's always gonna be cool, right? Bringing out like an idea you probably had in your head that might have either been from 5 minutes ago or 10 years ago. But I think now that I'm learning to be more of who I am myself, applying myself to my own vision and having that be like manifested or whatever, just bringing it to like a physical medium. Yeah, literally just making something tangible that I could kind of go back to and like I could say that was me, and like also just like that being whatever I'm saying or doing in the song is like a reflection of everything around me at the same time. So it's like, wow, this is me and the world, like I'm just here like listening to this. This is what I'm thinking, and I thought this because the rest of the world thought this, and it's crazy. Dirty Water. I made Dirty Water the evening after I left, after I was in the Grammys. So, I had so much emotions and I was really welled up because like I just did this job for Tyler the Creator and Kobe Bryant died, and those two things at the same time kind of just poured out of me after I left. Like by the time I'm like alone and I'm on my way home, I'm just like running through it. And Dan is in LA. Dan Sully is in LA, and he's up at Payne's house. But they're with Frank because Frank has a studio session. He was working on his album, so I go that way, and then we all go up to Payne's, and I'm just like, damn, we gotta cook, like it's time. And he had the beat Dirty Water. It was called Dirty Water, and I just spilled. I just let it all go. And yeah, we made it that night, and it was probably like personally what I thought was like one of my better works. And I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy. And then we got that set up. But the whole song is just like about like what I'm doing, where I'm at. It was this literally just like a pinpoint of everything for me. Here's where I am right now in this spot. Here's what's going on. These are the people who are around me. This is what I'm going to do moving forward. this is why. Because I'm swimming and I'm swimming through this water and it's dirty and I'm trying to do my best to get across to whatever that might mean. Whatever's on the other side of the river, like the second half, whatever. But I'm swimming through it and I can't see, but I'm gonna swim. So that was like kind of my whole thing. And that's part of my EP that's coming called Kanzai. And it's gonna be like it's 5-track EP, and it's just gonna be just like more of my next step compared to Arcade, which was really like an emphasis on just like what I've sound like before, because all those songs besides like Arcade itself I wrote like 3 years ago. These songs are a little bit more fresh, so maybe from like the past year, let's say, about to be 2 years type shit. But just like a refreshing feel on like what I'm really trying to sound like, what I'm really trying to go for. I think that's kind of what this is. Just my little early Kanzai. The Kanzai EP is kind of like when you watch Spider-Man and like they start out with like the red hoodie and some blue pajama pants. That's what I take it to. That's what it is for me. So that'll be out sometime this fall, and Dirty Water is probably gonna be out now. Probably out by the time this is out. Yeah, sure. So Dirty Water out now. And there's a video, and it's super nice. Yeah.